Wuthering Heights is out in theaters, new interpretation of the classic Emily Bronte novel. This was written and directed by Emerald Fennell, who made Promising Young Woman and Saltburn, both of which I think are terrific. It stars Margot Robbie, Jacob Elordi, Hong Chow, Shazad Latif, Alison Oliver, and Martin Clunes. The story is about the doomed, toxic romance between Kathy, daughter of a failing alcoholic gambling landowner, and Heathcliff, a sort of adopted son slash servant of the house. The pair grows up together, being inseparable and mischievous together. But when Kathy, in adulthood, accepts the proposal of a newly moved in neighbor, a rich and fancy guy named Edgar, the love between Kathy and Heathcliff turns sour and leads to a lot of misery and pain for everybody involved. So I gotta admit right off the bat, I read the book many years ago and I absolutely hated it at the time. I thought that it's full of unlikable, terrible characters who try to outdo each other in being toxic, and it's just not a fun read at all. I think at the time I expected it to be a sort of positive, happier romance novel because that's kind of the opinion that the book has in the shared consciousness amongst the people who haven't read it. And maybe I wasn't ready for it to not be that, to be about awful people. Coming into the movie, I was, I think, more at ease with that, but also I don't remember the book very well, nor do I care about it, which is why I wasn't bothered by the changes in adaptation, which apparently a lot of people have a problem with. I saw lots of opinions online trashing the movie for being shallow, for simplifying things from the book, for changing aspects and characters and therefore being bad. Now, with my approach to it, I gotta say I quite liked it. I think it's a solid movie overall. It certainly has a great first half, energetic, lively, tense, and stylish. And then in the second half, it admittedly slows down. I think as soon as Heathcliff returns and he and Kathy engage in their affair, a lot of the tension is gone and the movie just kind of stumbles towards its ending, which I also have a problem with, as I think it suddenly, at the very end, it suddenly romanticizes the relationship, whereas I think that that was the point where it especially should have driven the moral home that this was all toxic and destructive. A moral which otherwise in the movie is present and is laid on pretty thick. I mean, the movie is not exactly subtle or about its messaging. Couple of other points of criticism while we're at it. I think that it is remarkably tame, considering the marketing suggested it was going to be super erotic and transgressive and bold. And remembering Saltburn, which was certainly pretty graphic at times, this is like two scenes away from a PG-13 rating. There's really nothing too shocking or sexy about it. People have been talking online about the apparently vulgar opening scene, which I found to be anything but. I think it's a fun little subversion of the audience's expectations. So the movie opens with a black screen and just sounds, which you assume is someone having sex, and then it shows you the image, which is someone getting hanged. So if anything, it's a solid way to immediately establish the themes, which are that romance and love and sex can be awful and lead to misery, and also sort of audiences' expectations that this is going to be a love story. Oh, actually, it's going to be a bleak tragedy. Final criticism from me is about the songs by Charlie XCX. I think they are melodic and catchy and give the movie a cool modern twist in terms of style, kind of reminding me of Baz Luhrmann's Gatsby. But the lyrics are absolutely atrocious because they spell out what is happening in the scenes, which just made me feel like I was watching Love is Blind with my girlfriend. Terrible, terrible stuff. However, I still enjoyed the movie as a whole quite a lot. I think that, as I said, the first half has a great energy propelling it forward. I think both Robbie and Elordi are good and they have this interesting sort of love-hate chemistry. There are two supporting performances which steal the movie away. One is Martin Clunes as Kathy's father. He is fantastically disgusting, but at the same time layered. He chews the scenery in every sequence he's in, and he gets progressively more off-putting with the makeup and prosthetics. And the second one is Alison Oliver as Isabella. I think she is hysterically funny, especially up until the point she starts the relationship with Heathcliff. Now, also, a lot of people have criticized how that relationship is portrayed, how the sort of partial consent she gives at the beginning apparently removes cruelty and abuse from Heathcliff's character. I disagree that's the case. I think it's a very sort of modern read, modern take on it. I think that both things can be true. She could have given this partial consent, not really knowing what she's going into, and she might be partially okay with what is going on, but it's still abusive, you know. And the movie sort of opts for her having some sort of fucked up servitude and adoration, but again, to me, it's still very clear that she is being abused and treated horribly. But anyway, the best thing about the movie for me are its visuals and overall style. I think it deliberately goes into almost fairy tale territory, with a lot of locations and sets and costumes being completely impractical and unrealistic, but evoking a really strong sense of mood. And I like that. I like that the movie is not beholden to grounded period realism and instead is sort of unafraid to do things that make it stand out, that pop from the screen. It is very often gorgeous, which probably also helped me excuse the flaws of the story, especially in the second half. I was able to enjoy the visuals so much that I didn't mind the other problems. So there you have it. I liked it. I do think it's not as good as Emerald Fennell's previous movies, but it's also nowhere near as bad as some people would have you think. It is flawed and it is very in your face and unsubtle, and it is a case of style over substance, but I think it is to some extent deliberate, and the style is so good that this gambit proves successful. I had a good time with it.